or the most recent conference I've been to was called GrowthCon. Now, the reason I wanted to go to GrowthCon was a big guy called Grant Cardone, billionaire, real estate investor guy, and he's really big in the entrepreneur space. Very, very polarizing figure. A lot of people either hate him or really like him, which is usually the case. Like, you can't aspire to be someone that is super wealthy, super famous, super successful, and not understand that, like, the only way to get there is to be loved or hated. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Walk to Wealth podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure to do yourself one teeny tiny little favor. Make sure to give us a follow because I don't want you to miss out on any of the amazing episodes I got coming out this year. Without further ado, let's get right into this one. So, for those of you guys who are new to this series that I got going on, I've been to a little over 12 or something. I've been to a lot of conferences over the past 3 years, probably like 13 or so, probably a little bit more, and probably spent easily somewhere between 15 and 20,000 alone just going to conferences, between travel, the ticket event, the ticket fare, hotel fare, all that food at the event. Actually, I'm not even considering food. It'll probably be more than 20 if I'm considering food and stuff. But yeah, probably a solid 15 to 20,000 on just conferences alone. And this is the last conference that I'm going to talk about in this particular series. I still got 2 more conferences that I'm going to this year. So I'm going to talk about those when I end up going to those conferences, but they're not going to be technically a part of this series because this is technically the last episode, or second to last episode, and then I'm going to recap everything in one like more well put together. This is just me more so documenting a lot of my journey that you guys have kind of missed out on because I didn't ever share. So the second to last conference, or the most recent conference I've been to, was called GrowthCon. Now, the reason I wanted to go to GrowthCon, the big guy called Grant Cardone, billionaire, real estate investor guy, and he's really big in the entrepreneur space. Very, very polarizing figure. A lot of people either hate him or really like him, which is usually the case. Like, you can't aspire to be someone that is super wealthy, super famous, super successful, and not understand that love, like, the only way to get there is to be loved or hated. You can't do anything that's meaningful in life, like super meaningful in life. Not to say that doing something small isn't meaningful, but like, you're not getting to that level of status, that level of wealth and success without either being very loved or very hated, or both. And so I don't really know him as a person, but a lot of the entrepreneur business concept that I've heard personally, I resonated with. So I was like, you know what? Why not go? My guy Brandon, he's gone to almost every single GrowthCon for like the past like 6 years, and he keeps on going back, and that has to be a good reason for him to go back. And so I decided, why not go? And this conference, I ended up going with my friend Jithu, and this was a really dope conference because I was already out there, and it was in Miami. In this conference, I didn't know what to expect too much, but it was going to be in Miami, and I was already going to be in Miami for a public speaking workshop. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go for the workshop. I spoke at a couple of real estate offices while I was down there. Spent the Easter Sunday with my good friend Ava out in Miami. Shout out to Ava for hosting me. Amazing realtor out of Miami. Need someone, definitely look up Ava Gonzalez. But after that April, I think it was 2nd to the 4th, was GrowthCon of 2024. And this conference, this was like the number 1 ranked marketing conference according to Forbes. And this was easily the most A-listers I've ever seen ever. Like, the speaker lineup was crazy. It was Tucker Carlson, Mike Tyson. We had Peyton Manning. I think this one guy that's fighting Conor McGregor. I forget his name. Something Chandler, I think, from the UFC. We had Arnold Schwarzenegger. We had, who else? A bunch of other real estate billionaires. I think in total we had Tyler Perry there. I think there was a total of like 6 or 7 billionaires that were interviewed and able to speak, not including Grant himself. And so it was a really dope event. There's probably like almost 5,000 people. And for those of you guys that may or may not know, I went to an event called the Great American Speak Off, and I got to compete to speak at GrowthCon. Ended up not winning, but the guy who ended up winning this year, clearly, like, he definitely performed the best. I was rooting for someone else. that I wanted to win, but the guy took it and he killed it. He did his thing, and he has like that southern, Southern Baptist pastor voice where it's like he can get the crowd riled up, and he ended up winning. Like, and it was like not even close. I don't think anyone else performed on this level that day, but that was that. And from the speakers, I really didn't get too much. It definitely like opened your mind a little bit just to see people who have achieved that level of success, how they think and how they view the world. But again, it's like these are some of those conferences where like you have to do a little bit extra work to get the gems out, to get the nuggets out. And so me and Jithu, we casually were going around, and honestly, we were like trying to sneak up and to different venues and different seating selections because we had the lowest ticket, and we were sitting all the way in the back. And in terms of this conference, there was a lot of networking going on. There were people there were either like super like sales, like overly salesy and businessy, like within like a minute or two, they're trying to hand you a business card, and I pretty much find a way to make you their customer, which is kind of weird to me. But then there was also a lot of people that I met that were really dope, really cool people, and I gotta follow up with them. This is another thing. When you go to a conference, you gotta follow up with the people that you meet at the conference. But there was a lot of networking, and honestly, would I go to another one? Maybe. It was like a millionaire networking party more than anything. Honestly, from my experience there, and I was honestly super sick, so that also took away from my experience. I feel bad for Jithu, because I was like dying when I was out there. Nose was on fire, running, throat was sore, like I was coughing like crazy. I think I almost got Jithu sick, but his immune system is crazy. I don't know how he did it, but I got really sick when I was out there, which is annoying because I almost never get sick. And GrowthCon overall, as I said, from the speaker didn't get much. The networking was cool, and very fortunately, a lot of people when they go there, they get sold a ton, which is, I think it's pretty fair because they don't have any sponsors for the event. So the only people that sponsor the event are all of Grant's own company. So that was a little bit different. And I got to sneak into a Millionaire networking mixer, which was super dope. Had a good time there. My friend Brandon and Graham Maglino, both of which have been been on the podcast before, they were also on there over there. And overall, I didn't take too much away from that conference. And that's pretty much it. I don't want to sit here and ramble. It was definitely a pretty fun time. Not as fun as FinCon, not as fun as Kajabi Hero Live, but it was overall a pretty solid time. And I just didn't follow up as much with the people. And then towards the end, I wasn't even listening to a lot of the speakers. I was just like networking and trying to make more connections. And that was really it. But that's it for the last conference of the year. A little bit of an underwhelming episode, but I figured I wanted to make sure that I spoke about it because this episode I got a 2-for-1 deal. So the minimum ticket was 2,000, and I got a 2-for-1 deal. So me and Jithu only paid 1,000 for our tickets, which is still a solid number. But sometimes when you're talking to these people and you're trying to get your ticket, you can negotiate or work out some sort of deal. And I heard about that through Brandon. Brandon told me to do that, and I reached out to the salesperson, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you could do that, but you have to do it by end of day today." And I'm like, "Okay, cool, perfect." And so I ended up buying my ticket, and that's how I got to FinCon. The flights to Miami was pretty easy. I was already out there anyway, so that's all for the conference. Now, in the next video, what I'm gonna do for most of these videos, because a lot of time I'm recording these way after, and I feel like if I recorded these like right after that I came home from the conference, I would have so much more nuggets, so much more takeaways. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna record episodes about conferences and do a nightly recap while I'm there, so that you guys can get my live takeaways while I'm still at the conference instead of me having to reflect. That's one thing. It's been hard to kind of share with you guys about all these conferences that I've been to because the conferences, they go by so fast when you're there. Like time really flies. And the next thing you know, you're already on a flight back home. So what I want to do starting from here on out, when I go to Quantum Leap and KHL in October, I'm going to record my takeaways while I'm there, and then or at least write down as many takeaways as I can, because when I'm at a conferences and I bring my camera, honestly, it just ends up getting left in a room anyways, and I never use it. So this time around, I'm just gonna write as many notes as I can, and I know for Quantum Leap, I'm definitely gonna have a lot of notes, and same with KHL. So This is going to be more like a journal dump than anything next time around. You guys can get all my nuggets while they're still fresh in my head instead of me trying to reflect 2 years ago and figure out what were my big takeaways from then. But that's all for this episode. I'll catch you in the next one where I'm going to cover, is it actually worth going to conferences? Again, I spent over $20,000 probably, or close to $20,000 on conferences alone. I've been to a bunch over the past 2-3 years, and I'm going to compile all that and just give you a game plan as to how to make the most of conferences. Is it worth going to conferences? And put that all into one episode. So I'll see you guys in the next one.